Okay, so first thing we're going to do is update the render function, and shout out to Steven who brought this to my attention, and it was wonderful that he did. So I'm going to move over to VS Code and we're going to go into the render function. And inside the render function, the one thing Steven pointed out to me was a Stack Overflow link. I don't have that up, I should, but I'll include that. Matter of fact, let me go fetch that real quick. Well, I think this is the reference. Like if you create an object like this, foo and bar, common key properties, right, will result in something that might look like this, but it might not. It might not look like that in the order. The iteration order of objects follows a certain rules, but it does not always follow the insertion order, okay? So what does that mean for our code? Well, if I move over to here and I have a breakpoint set right now, right, this code where we're doing a conditional render is assuming a particular order, right, of first, last, you know. And actually, if we look at right now the object, right, this is how we're iterating over it. So it's really somewhat amazing that it doesn't actually it does render correctly. Because look at the order. Now this is the way we're looking at it on DevTools, which may not be the way, of course, and it isn't, because we can see it's first, right, the next time around, right, then it's, let's run that one, right, then it's last. Okay, so here it's listed alphabetically, and the point about this is that you just can't guarantee that that's the case. So how might we, in our example, make our code more resilient? And so this is where really, and this was so easy once I thought about it, and actually Steven and I were talking, and the reason I did this honestly was to show a way conditional, to use conditions to render. But in this example, to make our code more resilient, it's really easy. Is just define something called keys, right? And set it to the keys that we want in our render, right? Our want to pull. We want when these keys, when we iterate over these keys now that we have the object. So in this case, I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm actually going to get rid of this, which makes me get rid of this and this in order for it to work. Now, actually, I'm going to need one of these, but we'll bring it back in a minute. So really all I want to do here is I'm going to say, actually I'll do it right here, is I'd say for stack keys dot for each. So we have a nested for each, and then I could just say key, okay, arrow function. So for each key, I want to do this. Okay. Now in this case, and this is the part I had already set up, but when we want to reference the content on each object, you might first think we could do it like this, but in this case, right, it'll create an error. Because of these being strings, so we need to actually put it in brackets like this, okay? So in this case, we're iterating over. Our code looks much simpler, right? And let's see if it works, because this is a much more resilient to whatever way the object is going to be in listed the order. So we're only saying if the key, right, for each of these keys, so it'll just reach in and grab them rather than the way we've done it. So we've just made it hopefully better. Let's see if it works, see if I have any errors on this. Okay, this looks okay, but let's actually enter another one just to make sure that it is actually working. So now we go for keys first, and so we can see that TD, cool, that looks like it worked just fine. Okay, so let's just go ahead and let it run, and then we can see it worked just fine. So this code is not only simpler, but it's more resilient in the fact that if it's ever not in the order we would have expected it, which we saw just by looking at it on console, it wasn't, but you can't depend on that as insertion order. Okay, so what I would do here, and you can keep it around, we have it in other weeks, but I would go ahead and get rid of this code right here. So do that in yours, so it's just cleaner. We don't need it any longer, right? There we go. Cool. Okay, so that we'll go ahead and do this. Let's go back here. So go ahead and do the render table body update. That'll be your commit. So now we're going to move into a topic that we'll be covering for several weeks, and it's asynchronous. And I really, really like color code. I started using his videos last semester, and I found them really great, well produced. And so I think it's kind of nice to see other content. And in this case, I think he does a really great job of covering the difference between synchronous code, which is what we've been writing. We have been actually writing asynchronous. I've been mentioning it as we go along. But in this case, I'm actually going to have you code along. Now, for the first couple of bits of this, he just does a description, and man, these descriptions are good. I definitely recommend watching this because I think, especially for those of you that are new to asynchronous code or even JavaScript, and even if you're not, is good. But then you'll start actually where he goes and codes, you will code along. So here's what I say in here, right? Code along with this video on how async works. Code in your main.js, right? So in the main.js, which is here, right? I ended up coding up all this. And so all you want to do is actually comment out, right? So as he modifies, back here, as he goes through and rewrites the order pizza function. And by the way, if you Google just pizza emoji, emoji pizzas, you will actually find, and there's all kinds out there. You can use something else if you want. You can just copy this and then paste it right into the code editor, which is awesome, right? So you can just paste that right in to here, right, where we set it. Okay. So do that, and then when you're all the way to the end, and do watch all the way to the end and code along, then do asynchronous JS and callbacks. And I think actually we'll actually watch the second one here and code along with it as well. But I'm going to stop here and look at this and then consider what we're going to do next, because I do want us to write some asynchronous code for our code discussion challenge this week. So I think getting us all the way to introducing the idea of how to write promises is good. So do this, commit that, and then we'll move on to the next one.